Good evening. Good evening, everybody. My name is Arturo, and today I'm going to be talking about race in school. Before we get started, we're going to talk about equity in education. Uh, Equity in education just focuses on a child who has access to challenging academic experiences and education resources necessary for success across race, gender, ethnicity, language, and family background. Schools are are school schools are places where students can learn to expand their knowledge of current issues that affect today's society. Uh, the podcast that I chose focuses on race in school with Jose Vilson. Basically, Vilson talks about the aftermath of the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri. He believes that only one narrative has been presented instead of other accounts of individuals who were in the area. He believes that bias plays a huge role when being told what happened. He personally believes that teachers are not trained to address the conflicts, thus resulted in different perspectives. Um, Understanding the issue. Basically, what this means is that issues that relate to race and conflict tend to happen outside of the community, yet the impact can be felt outside. So, for example, what happened in Missouri uh, triggered massive protests not only in Missouri but across the United States, especially in major cities. And the role of an educator to address issues of race or ethnic conflicts between one group or another should be the role of the teacher. Basically, the teacher should talk about it, approach the issue or the conflict in an appropriate manner, get students to talk or discuss, yet it is the teacher's responsibility to avoid any tensions, and the teacher should provide students with a safe environment, especially for students that have been in the juvenile detention system or students who find themselves at risk, such as foster kids. Uh, the lens basically throughout the podcast, Wilson talks a lot about lenses. So what this means is he likes to bring in personal perspective, personal perspective in which he can tell, you know what, I've been through such problems. For example, he brings his early youth growing up in New York at a time when the local leadership was targeting minority groups basically based on their looks or what ethnic group they belong to. Uh, so this is one clear example about on how an individual can use the lens point of view. Students can also share their personal experiences and offer perspective on how racial issues affect them. So what this means is that in schools where ethnic students uh, might make up a minority, uh, they can share their perspective of how they have been subjected to some form of racism, either in their community or outside of their community, and maybe a teacher can understand what that student has gone through. Or in other cases, it can be said that teachers uh, who are white sometimes don't have a clear understanding of what the racial uh, problems that a student might face either in school or outside of school. So I think this is vital for an educator to get an understanding of, and also understand where the student is coming from, whether that's based on their ethnicity or on their socioeconomic background. The role of a future teacher. The role of a future teacher means that the teacher needs to be an agent of change. Being an agent of change means that the teacher needs to be a role model that provides positive uh, feedback and that ensures that when the child or student leaves school, they're going to make a good impact for their community, but also have the opportunity to expand their knowledge. I think a teacher should be ready to answer harsh questions. Um, Harsh questions could be uh, from students or in some cases parents, and they need to be very ready to provide answers or solutions. I think teachers who want to talk about racial conflicts need to be open-minded. That means they need to listen and listen, but also hear different perspectives before they jump into conclusion. And also, I think it'll be a good idea if teachers try to keep their politics out of the debate or discussion. Mainly because if they bring politics into the conversation, then that can trigger uh, negative feedback from both the students and parents. And I think students should allow their concerns to be heard and address the problems that is affecting them, society, uh, in both an academic or in some cases in their community. So I think if we're gonna discuss about uh, racial tensions, I think teachers need to be ready. They need to be ready because if they just jump into the conversation without any form of knowledge, then that means that teacher probably had no experience on understanding issues or tensions. So this is my take on podcast number 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I truly enjoyed this podcast, and I hope uh, members of this class will get to enjoy it as much as I did.